Great. How's it going? Oh, I remember you. Yeah. Okay, guys, I want to get going because we got a lot of stuff to cover today. Limited time. Who here is new to the meeting? Thanks for coming. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, and the rest of you guys. I've seen a lot of familiar faces. Appreciate you coming. We've gotten a lot of good new participation, which is great. And what I like is not only is it good participation, but you guys are actually providing feedback and actual steps for me to take, for Cindy to take, for other board members to take, so we can talk to some of the folks in the back there. So we got representatives from Campillo's office, we got Sarah Jacobs' representative, we've got Todd Gloria's representative, we've got a lot of people here today. So and we should have all of Zach. I go without saying. I'm
like a fly in the wall, and also on the budget.
Yeah, we've heard a lot about the budget. But one of our favorite guests. So with all that said, I want to get right to it and say pledge of allegiance. So give a little rise and let's do this. All right. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Right. Okay, now, so without further ado, let's get Officer up here. Tell us what's going on and talking about.
Well, once again, good evening, folks. Officer Laurel Torres, once again, pronounced just like that. I know you guys have already mastered it. Nonetheless, here I am. I think I missed the last one you guys had, I believe. Or did you guys cancel it?
Maybe it was a planning, maybe.
I was here in spirit nonetheless, in case I missed it, I was here in spirit. So what I did for these numbers in particular that I have, I went back just to August 1st. And it's basically calls for service, and these include anything from our traffic stops that we make out there. Anytime we contact a citizen for whatever reason they're doing. Death calls that obviously I can't go into death calls. Any suicide threats, anything mental related, I can't go into numbers for obvious reasons. It's more of a private setting matter, and of course we have, certain laws nonetheless. But what I will go over is just the crimes that to kind of affect everyday community. Just in general for you folks, and at the end, I will answer any questions you guys have to the best of my ability. So first thing first, and I only this because there's been a pretty good increase. So we had 13 stolen cars from August 1st to this point right now. That's quite a significant increase from last time. I believe last time you guys had only like 9, so now it's 4 more. But when you're like, oh, it's only 4 more. But when you're only averaging a certain number, that's almost a 50% increase if you think about that. We don't really know what to attribute it to. I know before we had this problem going on with Kia and Hyundai. They were getting stolen left and right from all these communities because of some hack that one of our famous TikTok personnel showed on TV how to steal a Hyundai and a Kia. And then before you knew it, Hyundai and Kias were the #1 stolen car in the United States because of a TikTok video. So we're seeing it just the same here in California. Anyway, so just be mindful, like I said, a couple of these 10-by-1, same thing, and it seems to happen every time I'm here. People love to run inside of their house, leave the car running, and they're doing, I don't know what, they come back out and the car's gone. Okay, I know I've been guilty of it myself, not gonna lie. But we gotta keep in mind, that's an easy opportunity right now. Now, I know the newer cars, you can actually still lock the car if you have a second set of keys and with the key still running. So it's not the big a deal. I know some of the fobs allow you to do that. But the older model cars, which seem to be the most stolen ones, don't have that feature. So it's just an easy target for some of our individuals that are up and running around that time. So let's just keep that in mind. We had 12 cars reported that were broken into. Now, these were just these were all broken into, but none of them were locked. Because then that changes it to a burglary report. So these were just cars that are, our folks are just walking by, trying handles, and they find one that's open, they get in, steal whatever they gotta steal from in there, and then they're gone.
Crime of opportunity.
Crime of opportunity, thank you, sir. And not just that, but these are the ones that reported. There's quite a few that don't get reported because people's like, oh, it's just my change. $4 or $5 in change, so they don't wanna say nothing. But what you don't realize, you might have been the fourth victim that person struck. So sometimes I know it might be trivial and you don't wanna bother with it. Even if you just call it in and you don't necessarily talk to an officer, just so it creates at least some kind of a record that it happened in the neighborhood. Cause that might let us know there might be a prowler somewhere on that neighborhood. Which kind of brings me to my next one. We had 8 calls of vehicle prowlers. So I don't know, and they're kind of in the same general area. I'm not saying, they didn't give a description of the individual, but they were just talking about people trying doors. They seen people actually trying doors, so that's what I'm talking about. Now, if they didn't break into the car, they just try to handle, it's not necessarily a crime. We're not gonna take a report, but at least, like I said, it paints a picture of, okay, we have individuals in certain neighborhoods trying different cars, different handles. And just because they didn't break into yours, it's good though, because now we have an idea of what's going on, and it just brings it to our attention basically. Okay. This was a good one. We had a huge increase in vehicle accidents. Don't know why. We don't know how long the moon was out for during this the last month. So we had 28 vehicle collisions reported. Now, these are the ones that we actually went on scene for. Now, mind you, we don't always go to all the scenes if there's no injuries. Some of them are just exchange of information. So these are the ones that we actually showed up on scene and helped in some way, shape, or form. Whether it was an actual, vehicle accident with injuries or not, or there wasn't, but we still helped with the exchange of information. So which brings me now to my next. We had 23 hit and run reports since August 1st till 5 o'clock today. 23 reported, once again, reported. That is a huge increase. Like, I don't know what it is about August 1st to now. If you think about it, that is 51 vehicle collisions, some way, shape, or form, that were reported or called here in Serra Mesa community. And now, mind you, we run from the 15 to Arrow Linda right here, and a little bit parts of almost close to the hospital still falls under Serra Mesa. So it does cover quite a bit of area, but nonetheless, that's still a lot of vehicle collisions. So just be mindful of when you guys are out there, please be careful. We had 5 robberies reported in Serra Mesa, but it's all mostly in Walmart. Walmart and Bonds were our 5 victims, basically. 4 of them were Walmart. We had 9 reported cases of assault, and this is simple assault battery. In other words, somebody pushed somebody else or they spit on somebody. Not necessarily the biggest crime in the world, but it was still reported nonetheless. We had 4 cases of indecent exposure that were reported. And I looked up all 4, and it involved some around the house. So it wasn't like somebody actually being a creep somewhere. It was just, their pants were down, or they were walking and, they were showing butt cheeks, and they didn't really know it because of their conditions. I know. It was only 4, so it's not too bad. We had 63 calls of disturbance. That's just basically people arguing, having arguments within family members, whatever. No actual crime occurred, it was just arguing, but that was still 63 that we had to respond to. We had several, I can't go over these because these were domestic violence calls. We only had 19 noise complaints of parties. We did have several more noise complaints, but these were just party calls. So, and this was a number that stuck out to me because we hadn't really had that before in Serra Mesa. So I don't know if all of a sudden we just had an influx of just youth that rolled in and they want to start having parties out here. But all of a sudden there seems to be an increase in party calls, which I found that interesting. We did have 21 violent calls. Now these were actual physical assaults amongst people. And it's not tied into one area. It's actually spread out pretty even throughout Serra Mesa. So I couldn't say, oh, it's this particular neighborhood we're having this issue. It was kind of spread out pretty good. So I can't really say that for a fact that it's there's an epidemic going on. It just seemed to be something that happened. We had 37 alarm calls to residents. So once again, and quite a few of these were the same houses. Keep in mind, if we have to respond to a alarming bear at your residence, and it's been at least 2 and it's all unfounded, you're gonna get a bill from the city. And it's like $100 and something, but it'll be per visit every time. And I know we hit one house up like 5 times already, so they're gonna get a nice little city bill, which is unfortunate. All you gotta do is call your alarm company and they can come out and do a test and figure out why it's not working. Or what's causing it to go off. And it's usually, it'll show you, right window, garage door, something like that. So, you know, if you have a good decent alarm company, they should be able to pinpoint where it's going on. We had 5 calls of caser calls. That's basically people reported people seeing maybe trying door handles sometimes for homes. And then once again, it wasn't in a particular neighborhood, it was kind of spread out. But nonetheless, they still, and some of these were possibly people pretending to be door salesmen or holding a clipboard. But why is anybody jiggling the door if they're just, you know what I mean? So it was a little odd. It was on one of the ring cameras, but it was only one time. Didn't see it anywhere else reported, so it wasn't reported as a crime. It was just something that one in particular stuck out to me because it was somebody possibly pretending to be something they're not. But it only happened in one home. It was weird, nowhere else. So that's what made it weird. We took 6 residential burglaries. Now, all 6 of these though, 4 of them were garage. Someone broke into a garage and either stole a bicycle or broke into a car. Now, the car might not have been locked, but of course it's inside a secure building, which makes it a burglary. So, I don't know what, once again, these were actually broken into. In other words, the garage door was broken into. Either they broke a window or they're able to wedge either a screwdriver, something pretty good, right where where your door handle's at. If you jam it in there pretty good and crank it open, these things can open up. So we have 4 of those spread out throughout all Serra Mesa. Again, it's not in a concentrated neighborhood, so it's hard to, you can't say that it was one in particular individual that did it. So that part we don't know. The other 2 were bicycles that were stolen from a port, but both bicycles were locked in place, so technically they were secured. So this makes it part of burglary. We had, let's see, 1, 2, 3. We have 5 cases of porch pirates, which is, I hadn't seen that before either in Serra Mesa. I don't think I even reported that last time. And for some reason, we have 5 people calling in saying that things were stolen from their porches. 2 were caught like a ring camera, and then 3 other ones. It was only because their packages arrived, and obviously you get a picture of it on so you show it. So they get there, and the package is gone. So again, it's not in one particular neighborhood, so we don't know again if it's serious related or whatnot. But I'm pretty sure I didn't go over this last time when I did a meeting. So there's been an increase. And but here's the other thing. These were the ones that were reported. Again, I know a lot of times if your package is missing, whatever, you just kind of call Amazon Bay. It's not here. They'll just gladly refund you, whatever they got to do. So you never actually make a report. So sometimes that's a little bit of a disservice to your neighbors, because it might be part of a ring. So I know sometimes we fall guilty of not calling it in. So please call it in. And even if, like I said, we don't take a report necessarily, at least it's documented that it happened. So we can see if it is something's going on in certain neighborhoods, because then it's somebody walking through and just hitting up different neighborhoods or different residents. We had 5 vandalism cases. And one of them actually happened here at the library. Somebody got their tire slashed outside. We don't really know who it was. I just thought that was interesting that it happened here at the library. And the other ones were just simple tree. One was somebody had a really valuable tree, as they say. Somebody hacked it, I guess. It's kind of weird. Yes.
I've been noticing more graffiti, which wasn't the case. Have you seen that?
If it hasn't been reported to me, I really would, or if I, and that I have seen that too. That's not good.
No, living here, I've never seen it, so just, I wanna say the last 6 months. So I've noticed that there's graffiti going on in the residential area.
Like if you go up the hill, right before you hit Honda, there's like
Yes.
a brick, the guy's got a brick wall, the regular fences, that's always graffiti. And then, I think, starts with an I can't remember the road name, a couple after Ronda, there was graffiti on the fence. And that was pretty shocking.
So let's make sure if that is going on, that we usually get it done at, I know once again, it's, we're like 4+ weeks behind on it.
There was a, yes, I think when somebody done right on the Stadium Hill, when they built the big Keystone Block wall there in Stadium Hill, you can see from Pride Road. And it was massive, they covered the whole thing, but they obviously went and Sam Laster or something got rid of it really quick, but it was a major one, yeah.
Okay, and one of the last things that I'm gonna go over is and I think was that someone came up to me asking about this. So we had 52 calls for technical welfare. And a lot of them were obviously during when we had those heat waves going on. And we saw a significant increase, and it was mostly because people were seeing obviously some of maybe our unhoused laying somewhere in summer. And of course, it's like 100-some degrees out here. And so we had a lot of those calls. So good on you guys. I will say that because some of them did end up going to the hospital because they were overheating. So just because you see somebody laying down there, you're like, oh, they're just probably sleeping. You know what? Just call it in. Rather be safe than sorry. Because unfortunately, sometimes they're not looked after as well as they probably should. So and then we can go contact them, at least offer them resources. So that's at least that'll come out of it. Even if they're okay, we cannot be like, hey, we always offer them resources on contact. So some of them will take it. Most of them won't, but at least we offer it to them. Other than that, that's pretty much it. Do I have any questions? Yes.
Charges, from what I understand, if somebody steals a car and it wasn't locked, that's not only.
Well, if they still steal it, like if they actually move it from, if they even move it 1 foot and they're inside, it's technically considered stolen car.
Okay.
The moment it's moved, it's it's considered a stolen vehicle.
Any question or friend on TikTok that taught everybody how to steal all this car, so you face charges?
That I couldn't tell you. I wouldn't be surprised if he did, because he didn't actually commit a crime. He just showed you how to commit a crime. So go figure. Yes.
About the Guild building up there, that's still standing in the empty lot. I mean, that is a moldy, hazardous building right there. It's, they got it all boarded up and stuff because it's got toxic mold in the whole thing. I mean, is there any plan on remediating that building or something? I mean,
That is something that I have no control over. That's something the city has control over.
There's a big history to that, so we can. talk
yeah,
about
yeah,
that
the
later.
building is pretty good. Yeah, I know, born and raised in the neighborhood.
Okay, so yeah, they're just not doing, hopefully eventually they will, because now there's all this other construction around here.
Right.
We'll see.
Yes.
More of a comment than a question. I walk my granddaughters from Fermi crossing Mission Village, going around to Taft Middle School. They pick up a bus to go to one of the academies. But so it's about 8 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
And I pick them up around 4:15 in the afternoon, come back the same way. The middle school also lets out just before 4 o'clock on that same intersection of Gramercy, Ruffin and Mission
Okay.
Village Road. The speeding, red light running, and insane driving of citizens that are essentially cutting through Serra Mesa to get down to Friars to get to the freeway
Oh, okay, yes.
is dangerous to the point where there have been 3 or 4 times just in the last month where I've had to grab the children and hold them back from crossing. We have the right to cross because of people running red lights or when they're coming south on Ruffin,
Right.
making that left on to Mission Village where they have the 2 lanes
I know
coming
exactly.
down.
Yeah.
There's a little intersection right after that you have to cross it. I can't even explain to you how many times I've seen.
And what's the time frame again on that?
8 o'clock in the morning is when
So
I
8 in
walk
the
them
morning?
there, and 4 in the afternoon.
So 8.
To 4:30 is when I bring them back. It's just, it's like the Wild West stuff.
Good things like that is things I would forward to my traffic division, because obviously that's their forte is traffic.
That's a big question I had, was traffic, I don't know if I should speak up now or what, but about the, the one lanes, I mean, that's creating more frantic drivers to get through, because the signals aren't timed right, let alone, the one lanes don't work through this neighborhood, it's absolutely absurd.
Are you talking about on
Not
Mission Village when
to have that done, I
when
mean.
they got rid of
didn't
the
ask
one
us.
lane or
Yeah.
and now it's a bike lane?
Yeah, and I ride a bike every chance I get, I rode up here, and it does not justify, yielding to the double bike lane. All the way down Mission Village, it's ridiculous, I mean, you just got, now where do you pull over if you got a flat tire, where do emergency vehicles, where do you pull over to if emergency vehicles are coming?
So someone brought that up also, because they also did the I don't know if you noticed on Friars, they put that curb line
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
bike riders.
So how are
Well-
you gonna wash, how are they gonna street?
Well, if you're rolling, someone brought up if an emergency vehicle's trying to get through, everybody's supposed to go to the right, but you
Right.
can't because
Yep.
you got a curb now that blocks your,
Right.
I know, it's.
And it costs $5 million for every 1 mile of bike lane they create in the city. It's-
That's what.
Yeah, and that is absurd. Who's paying for that?
But back to the point.
Okay, guys,
But back to the point.
please, one at a time, because people online cannot hear when more
Back
than
to
one
the
person
point at
is
hand.
talking.
Regardless of if we like or don't like bike lanes.
Right.
The reality of it is that intersection is just the Wild West show. And there are small children that leave and go together. And the teenagers actually cross Gramercy to pick up the city bus. Going out Gramercy towards the CVS. And so that, and of course, middle schoolers aren't always the most cognizant of paying attention and will cut across without going to the light.
Right,
And I've seen
okay.
some really close calls with people just driving
So-
insanely fast.
I'll bring that up to our traffic to see if they can do, I know they always go on little missions like that throughout the city. So I'll send them a message, see if they can set something up for those areas, because you're not the only school that's actually brought that up, so it seems to be increasing, I would say. But okay, that's good to know.
Online that says, please let the officer know that there's an uptick in overnight parking camping in the lower field lot of the Serra Mesa Rec Center, which I've noticed that as well.
Okay, Mr. Rec Center.
Yeah. There's somebody camping down there. They have a RV.
Okay.
They've been there for about a week.
Do you have my contact info, buddy?
Yes, sir.
If for them like that, if you can just have them send me a quick message, just an email, so I can, that way I can also forward it to our neighborhood policing division.
Okay.
Okay.
Because they're the ones who deal a lot.
Then that person,
Okay, thank you.
and do you have any business cards this time? or-
I don't. They haven't filled me up yet. On a budget. Actually, I have two on me.
Yeah,
I do have two
work
on
this
me.
side. So it's, so twice as much crime as last
I'll
time,
take it.
but half as much, as many business cards though.
I will leave one as a reference and people can take pictures of it. I swear I have one.
Next time, half the crime, twice the business cards. The other-
And I didn't even put it in our pledge.
So let's see.
Oh, no, and I got stickers though.
It doesn't have your email on here, but it's got all your. I mean, it's got your phone number, but.
I've got to see.
Okay.
Okay, well, here we
I'm
go.
just gonna put it in the chat.
Boom. Down to one. So precious.
Hold on to that.
No, I should be so interesting. And any other questions from anybody? If not, thank you again for,
Thanks.
Oh, no.
Really appreciate
thank you guys for having me. I try to make as many of these as I possibly can, because obviously this is the only time I get to talk to you guys, instead of over email or anything like that. I would much rather talk to you guys in person. It just, because then, things get lost in translation between emails and whatnot. So, if you guys ever want to meet, if you guys want to talk to me, I know I've done it with certain citizens here. Please reach out to me. I love coffee, okay? I consume it. But anyways, please reach out, don't hesitate, and I'm here at your guys' disposal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys have a- Okay, so next up, we have the SDSU speakers to talk about the Aztec Rock Hunger project. It's Vincent and Lynn. I believe. Vincent, you're up. You want the microphone? We got the microphone.
I should be fine.
Sure.
No, okay, thank you. Everyone, how are you all?
Thank you guys all for having us today. We're very excited to be here. We can just go over introductions. So hello everyone, my name is Vincent Lin. I'm this year's AS VP of Financial Affairs at SDSU. And then I'm also the chair for Aztecs Rock Hunger this year.
Hi, everybody. My name's Aliza. I'm also part of Aztecs Rock Hunger and I'm the business district officer.
Yeah, so today we're here to talk about Aztecs Rock Hunger. Aztecs Rock Hunger is a university-wide led campaign for the battle of food and nutritional insecurity here in San Diego, right? So it's not just for the SDSU campus, it's for everyone in San Diego. And that's made help through our partners that we have.
Oh, there you go. Oh, sorry. Okay, you want me to go to the next slide?
This is Cindy, she
Okay, sure.
Sorry.
She was very nice tonight.
All right, so yeah, as I said, Aztecs Rock Hunger is an annual university-led campaign and it's been going on for 15 years now. Originally, it was Colleges Rock Hunger and it was made for competition between UCSD, SDSU, and USD. But SDSU kind of blew them out of the water, so now it's pretty much just SDSU doing this campaign. But this campaign is funding 3 different sources. So first, we have the SDSU Economic Crisis Response Team, which is under the Basic Needs Center. So it's for students who face financial insecurity and need like a little help. So SDSU's Economic Crisis Response Team is where they go. And then we also have the AS Food Pantry, where students can just go in and then grab what they need 3 days a week. And then we have the Jacob and Cushman Sango Food Bank, which is the largest food bank here in San Diego. And then specifically 20% go to ECRT, the rest go to the food pantry, and anything that we do not spend goes to the Jacob and Cushman's Food Bank. Next slide.
If you just push that button and we go to the next one. Oh,
Just press the arrow key.
I did, but nothing.
Okay. We still,
Okay. Maybe the down key.
We've tried the up key, the down key, the back key, and the, we've tried every key. Shame, huh? There. Oh, there you go.
Can you go back 1 slide, please?
I don't know which way is back. I don't know what these. Okay, let me try. I don't know which way to. Which way to go. Oh, there we go. To go within. We'll just skip all of it. I don't know. It's like
Yeah, it's the top one.
it's stuck or something. It's, yeah, it's not responding. You need to escape. Let's just go this way.
Can you go,
Why is it?
Which one do you want to go to? This one? Why?
why it's important?
Okay, that I could do.
That the one you were trying for?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just gonna leave it like that because the full screen thing is kind of.
yeah, it's all good. All right, so why is this important? Well, this has a big impact on SDSU on campus as well as in the Sango community. So ECRT has served 2,000 individuals every year. The AS Food Pantry has almost 19,000 visits a year. And then the Sango Jacob Cushman's Food Bank has served 44 million pounds of food to families who are in need of food or nutritional like kind of support.
All right, so this year's goal, we're trying to reach $100,000, and if we reach this goal this year,
We're gonna make $1 million in lifetime, so over our past years. So this is a huge year for us. We're really excited. Our campaign runs from October 4th to October 27th. And basically $1 literally makes a huge difference because $1 provides 2 meals in total, which is literally double the amount, and giving back is just a great way. So we're really trying for that push, and raising awareness in general is our main objective for food insecurity and nutritional. I know a lot of like some of my friends, lots of college students suffer with food insecurity, and people are just like scared to come out about it. I feel like we're really fortunate with having like food on our tables, like families coming together for a meal, college students being like away from their family are scared to be like, oh, can I have more money? Because they're like, oh, my family's already paying so much money for tuition, I don't want to feel like a burden. So that's where they like lack, and they're like, oh, I'll take a step back where I can. So that's why we really want to provide for our peers. And I feel like this is like a great way and opportunity to show our community in general and just to give back. So on our next slide, we have all the ways you can donate. We have a little Venmo, which is at Aztecs Rock, or Cash App, which is Aztecs Rock as well. We also have our SDSU Aztec Proud portal, and this can also have tax write-offs if needed. But one of the best ways also is to donate online through the virtual food, like the pantry itself. So you can take a moment to scan this. We have flyers as well if anybody would like them. And yes, so that's really it. On the next slide, we'll just leave it open for any questions or concerns or feedback you all have.
I
Yes.
just wanted to make a comment. I've had a chance to visit out on campus. I didn't even know they had a food bank on campus, but it's very well received and visited. And I don't know if you or friends or family had a chance to go to the food banks around town. But the Jacob Cushman group, it's just amazing what they do with the money that's donated. I've had the opportunity to ride in the car with a friend that went just in the last few weeks, and you literally go to a certain location where they advertise they will be at that time and that day. It's not just somebody can drive through 15 different locations and just take all they want and go sell it somewhere else. You have to show city residents, get a card, your income. So you have like a membership card to visit these food banks. And you literally drive up, pop open the back of your trunk, you don't even have to get out of the car, and it just loads your trunk with food. And it's not just a kind of soup, it's just all the food groups that I was just blown away by what they do and the good work they do and all the people that need help. So I think this project, and by the way, I'm Judy Mitchell. I'm the new board member on the council here at Serra Mesa this year. And I'm the liaison between the Serra Mesa community and San Diego State's new Mission Valley campus. So the fellas and ladies, the folks that I've been working with at state, they're here to just spread the word. They're not like looking for a can at the door or making donations. They just want to get the word out. But this project is very worthwhile. It starts October 4th, and any and all donations will really help a lot of people. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next up, we got Clint Carney. He's going to be speaking about trash services. All right, Paul, you're in.
We're also willing to wait until the elected representatives speak if you'd like to switch it, just so that they can go into the next seat. No, you're fine.
Do you need the microphone?
Do I need him? I need a mic.
Here you go.
Okay, I'm here with the city's trash study. My name is Paula Roberts. I'm part of the study team. Clint is on with me. The trash study is the city's effort to engage the public in its process to look at adding fees to recover its costs for the trash services that have been free for more than 100 years in the city. That this was passed by voters in 2022, and it's subject to all the requirements of Proposition 218, which governs how a city can charge fees. So, you know, they can't collect more than what their actual costs are. And it's kind of this three-pronged process. So we're in the beginning of a listening process. And then we'll report back on some of the things that the team has discovered in their investigations, as well as what the public has told us about their priorities. Then there will be a recommendation to the city council, and the city council can choose to adopt the full fee that is recommended. They can choose to adopt part of that fee, or they can choose to adopt none of that fee. So that's what we have to talk about in a nutshell. If the presentation is going to work, we can kind of walk through it quickly. Let's see the next slide. So, as I mentioned, this process is based on something that started more than 100 years ago. In 1919, the city passed the People's Ordinance, which actually followed an effort a couple of years earlier by the women's clubs of San Diego, who said that the city should start operating the trash service and hire a sanitary engineer. And they looked at a couple of cities in Europe, and they looked at Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and a little town called Mora, Minnesota, which is so small that the students from Mora, Minnesota were bused to Malacca, Minnesota, where I went to high school. I also grew up on a farm, which is my second tie to this story, and why I love this history story so well, is that the People's Ordinance was started because, people were really unsatisfied with the contractor provided service they were getting through the city. Contractors didn't always honor their contract. They raised prices midstream, and if people objected to paying higher prices, they piled the garbage up on the wharves, and people were getting sick from the smell, not to mention all the rodents and everything else that came with it. They dumped the trash they were supposed to haul 20 miles out to the ocean in the bay. So people were really fed up. And then on top of these fees that they felt were very unfair and unpredictable, was a lot of food waste, and the food waste was more expensive. We had canneries and fisheries, which were, primary industries in the city. And the hotel and restaurant men discovered they could sell their food waste and make a profit instead of paying the contractor by having that food be used for pig food. So they first they just started selling it off contract. And then the city council said, you can't do that, you're violating our contract. So then they mounted the People's Ordinance. And the People's Ordinance was proposed to people as, you're not gonna pay any more, but you're gonna get a lot better service. And it said the city should take over this process of collecting and disposing of trash, and that they should sell the food waste or get a profit from the food waste through converting it to pig feed, and that they should then charge the people the difference of the tax. So the city started providing the service. A year later, they purchased hogs and equipment, and the tax didn't get adopted. And then, a few years later, when probably all the numbers were known, everyone was used to getting free service. So you know how popular it is when people who are getting something free are told they're gonna have to pay for it. So that process has repeated through more than 10 decades. And now in 2005, 2008, 2009, the county grand jury took a look at the city of San Diego and determined that this was a very unfair process, because paying for trash services out of the general fund is impacting people who are not getting the free service. So I'm way off of this, but the point of this slide is that things have changed a lot between 1919 and today. And that San Diego was a very different city. There was a lot of it that was agriculture. So Mission Valley was all farms, and we had the fisheries and the canneries, and it was a very different place. Next slide. So finally, in 2022, this, the city council was willing to put this on the ballot, and the voters approved that the city should be able to recover the cost. Next.
I'm running into what you did.
Okay. The last point on there is maybe in charging single family homes, and I wanna be clear that it's not just single family homes, it's single family homes up to fourplexes. So up to 4 units on a single lot is who will be served in this process and who would be subject to the fees, and that's over 250,000 households. Yeah.
So, question is, so the city they sold the dump to a private contractor, is what happened? So the city doesn't run the dump anymore, it's a private contractor and feeds the
The city runs the landfill, and I don't, this has nothing to do with that kind of an operation. This is strictly all related
to trash question.
to the fees.
You're right,
The
exactly.
process, well, there's a process,
So-
we're asking people their priorities for service.
Right, so,
And then we're coming back to them, telling what those services might cost. And then we're making a recommendation to the city council,
so.
but I don't have anything to do, I'm not a member of city staff.
No, I'm just
So I can't
voicing
even
my
answer
opinion,
your
so.
question.
So we have all the units being built, all the big, the units being stacked up and built, and so all those units have to pay for trash service themselves.
They do already,
Not from the city, it's a private contractor.
but they're still paying for their trash service.
Right, so they have to pay for it when all the family homes were getting it basically first, it was in our taxes, basically, it was taken out.
Well, there was never a line item to cover that. So it was coming out of the tax, like everything goes into a kitty. And the services,
Right.
the essential services like police and fire and libraries and parks all come out of that general fund. And so when the city pays for trash out of that, that means that people in other kinds of housing who are paying for their own trash
Right,
don't get as much in terms of police and fire and parks and libraries. And yes, ma'am,
Funds, the general fund.
the general fund, correct.
Yeah, who funds it?
The general fund, if I can, if we can get to it,
yeah.
the general fund is covered by property taxes, which are also paid by apartments and condo owners. And sales taxes, which are also paid by residents who live in apartments and condos.
Okay, so property
Transient
tax.
taxes that are paid from the hotels and Airbnbs. And some other dedicated funds. But the key issue about why this county grand jury said this is not an equitable situation is that everyone who pays into that general fund does not have an opportunity to benefit from the free tax service.
Well, I believe people that live in apartments and homeowners all have trash. And people that go to hotels make trash. So actually, anybody that's paying into this general fund, I believe, participate in the trash making. Therefore, they're.
And some are paying a fee to cover their costs, the cost of what that service is for them, and some are not.
Unless we can get it booked to know exactly who's paying what, it just seems like it's all lumped together. But specifically, everybody's contributing.
My understanding, if I may, my understanding is that this is only applying to single family homes that are up to 4 units. So any property that's.
It's already paying, will not be impacted by this.
And so the point I'm trying to make is when you own a property that's 5 units or more, you have to get a dumpster, you have to pay Edco or
Yeah.
waste management, you have to pay for the service, right? So what the city, and just correct me if I'm wrong, what the city's asking here is saying, this was previously for the last 100 years, has been coming out of the general fund, right? So now homeowners are being treated the same as multifamily owners, where they have to pay for their trash service. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah.
You are understanding that correctly. And the other, one of the insights that someone shared with me is, if you're a homeowner and you want your kids to live here, chances are they're gonna live in an apartment or a condo. And so you're asking them to pay something you don't pay to make, so that
Well,
you don't have, so that you get subsidized by their fees.
Well, we can let you finish your presentation.
Oh, you want to?
I don't know that it's working.
Oh, you want me to move on?
there's still a
Oops.
couple spots.
So we've covered this. So as I mentioned, properties that have more than 4 units, well, they're already getting private service. Next slide.
So they're gonna provide service, and then we have to pay for our service too, so. From the city,
Right, from city service.
So how does that,
If you're getting private service, you will continue doing what you're doing. If you are getting city service, you will start paying the cost of that just like you pay for another utility. If that's what the city council recommends, and if the Proposition 218 process does not result in more than 50% of people objecting. So there are hoops along the way before a fee would be adopted, and I have no idea what that fee would be. So here are some of the things that we're hearing. You know, these are things that the city has asked us to ask people if these are services they would like. And I can, you know, we can kind of move forward through this, but the things we've been hearing, we just finished a round of open houses. And we've had 1,700 people complete surveys. People want their bins replaced when they're broken. They want bulky item pickups. And they want more options for household hazardous waste. Yes, sir.
Recently I had my black trash bin replaced and it cost me $75. Also, I wanted to get rid of the mattress and there's no way, you know, the city doesn't provide collection. For
Right,
that.
and that's one of the drawbacks of having the service the way it is. The reason the bins have been charged is because the bins weren't exclusively forbidden by an amendment that was passed in 1986 that said the city couldn't charge until the measure be passed in 2022. So first the city was given permission to charge starting in 1919. They didn't do it. Then, you know, you had Prop 13 and all these other things that made passing taxes difficult. And then in 86, as the city was saying, we can't continue to provide this service for everyone, they tried to peel off small business. And that, of course, created a big backlash. And then there was a new amendment that got passed, and that was when it said you can't charge. And so because of that, you know, you're seeing different kinds of fees like at the landfill and for the bins and different things that, you know, might have otherwise been part of your trash fee, but they couldn't. Since they weren't expressly forbidden, it was one of the ways the cities tried to make ends meet. And the thought is, if there's a monthly charge or an annual charge for trash, then your bins would be included. That's, yeah, that's one of the priorities that people have, is to have that included. And the one of the, you know, in terms of added services, the number one thing is bulky items. So that would be like, you could maybe call in and have them pick up your mattress.
So right now, you're creating like a big Christmas list of goodies that you'll have to figure out how much it's gonna.
And that is part of,
and part of the Christmas list of goodies is that they're coming around with more trucks to pick up the green waste and the recycling. They have a whole new fleet of trucks to do all that. So all that's gonna be.
and those are.
Our fees, what we used to think was coming out of our property taxes, but in reality, you're saying we're not gonna get a credit on our property taxes, or are we?
and imagine them now, a property tax with the price of houses nowadays. Oh my God, they're making absurd amounts of money and you're telling them we can't afford to pick up your trash? That's absurd.
If you, can we fast forward to a pie chart? Okay, so here is where the general fund comes from, okay? So out of the property taxes that are paid in, less than 18% comes from the county to all of the cities in San Diego. So the property tax does, you know, provide some of the funding for the general fund, but it's certainly not all of it. And it's certainly not limited to single family homes. So, you know, and
Well, that was just your argument that they weren't paying. They were paying other places. Where's that other place? Not limited to?
apartments, condos, other properties all pay property tax. So I don't remember what the next slide is.
So at $1 million a house in the neighborhood, that's what,
Well,
$16,000 a
and you
year?
have Proposition
Property
13 that limits how much can be charged, you know, You may have $1 million houses in your neighborhood that are paying tax on a much smaller value. So,
Right, and sold recently, right.
As I said, this is a multi-pronged process, you know, we're going through the different steps. We just completed the first round of open houses. We're looking at doing another one starting in November. At that point, we'll have some funding dollars. You know, we aren't gonna, I don't know that we'll know them very clearly, but we can, you know, talk about maybe what some of the impacts might be to add the services people talked about and ask, you know, like at this price for doing it twice a year, is that okay? Versus at this price for doing it 4 times a year, you know, those kind of things, or, and, then after the second round of public, meetings or open houses, then there'll be a recommendation to the city's environmental committee. And we expect that to go before the city council probably in January. And if the city council recommends a fee, then in March, we would be going out for the public comment on Proposition 218. So just like when you get an increase in your water rate, you receive like a written notice and you can return that with your written comment. If 50% plus 1% send those back and say this is unfair, then we go back to the drawing board. I don't think it means the city will never charge. I think it just means that they have to go back and come up with another fee that people find fair.
And
So-
when do you get that thing to fill out?
I'm sorry.
You said so many people send that comment card back. Where do we
Yeah,
find
we
it?
can get those.
Yeah, it will be mailed to everyone who's gonna have to pay the new fee.
Oh, it hasn't, say.
No, it won't be sent till March,
I see, March of,
March of 25.
Spring of 2025 is the comment period.
okay.
So we're expecting that, and then if a fee were to go through, then we expect that it would probably start in July of 2026. Or no, 2025, but if there are new services, that those would roll out in 2026. So, let me see what else I have.
Oh, okay.
I think I've covered pretty much everything because I just start talking, you know. So we have a lot of ways for people to be involved and to share your opinions. We have in-person meetings. We are going out to all kinds of community groups like the community plan groups, community councils, town councils, all those kind of things. When we do our in-person public meetings, we are also doing, for each round, we're doing one online for people who can't make it to one of the ones in person. We're also going out like to community events. I was out at Claremont Family Day with the table all day, those kind of things. We're doing our best to get out there to people, but part of what you can do to make this process efficient and representative of people is share that this is there and send people to our website, which is cleangreensd.org, and I bet it's gonna be on one of the next slides. So I've talked about this, and this. So yeah, there, cleangreensd.org, and there's a survey on that page. There will be a second survey when we're out doing the second round of open houses or public events. So go back and finish all the surveys so that they're quick. They're about 10 questions and they take probably about 5 minutes. And those opinions will help shape, you know, they actually have told the people who are doing all the calculations what numbers to grab. And we are, one of the questions I get often is, are we looking at the communities around us? Because every city in San Diego except us does charge for trash services. So we are looking at all those communities and other communities that are comparable in San Diego in the country. And as far as the study team knows, there are 2 other cities in the country that don't charge for residential trash, New York City and Houston. So.
Well, let's stay like that.
I second that.
Yes, no doubt. I mean, there
You know, that, I mean, the other way to address fairness is to provide it to everyone, and the city would have no money left.
Well, they wouldn't be able
For
to do
other
that because all the massive units, they have to use that.
Bring the fat, like bring
So-
the fat, like everybody else.
Right.
We've been doing.
We've been here paying a long time. I mean, it's all the big new units coming in that have to pay, they don't like that.
I know you don't have a popular job, but you know, charging us for something we already paid for is not.
It's not. It's actually, it's not something I'm doing.
Right.
I'm just working for the city out of but the reality is that this
It's
is
another bill.
something that has never been a line item fee. You've never been charged the cost of what that service is. And one of the goals of charging for that, and that one of the reasons the county grand jury recommended it, is that with no fee, there is no incentive for people to do better.
But on that pie chart,
Okay, I
it
think-
showed that we've been paying to a general fund, right?
I think we have somebody online that's
Okay.
been waiting for a long time. Can I ask a question? Sandra, do you want to ask your question?
Yes, I would. Thank you. My name is Sandra Stahl. I'd very much like to encourage you to stop using the word free. As some other people have pointed out, it's been paid through our real estate taxes. And the second thing I'd like to know is there going to be any provision for low-income people? I mean, $25, $30 a month may not seem like a lot of money to some people, but to some other people on the edge of their income, it can make the difference between whether or not they eat dinner that night or not. So has there been any discussion about something to do for low-income people?
The city is looking at a program for low-income assistance. It cannot come from the fees. That's one of the requirements of Proposition 218. They are looking at a grant or some other funding that would let them provide assistance like a lifeline rate. And it would be based on maybe federal criteria for assistance programs. I did not hear the first question, I'm sorry.
Can you repeat yourself, Sandra? Wait, the
Oh.
sound was down.
Yeah, the first thing I said was not a question. I encouraged you to please stop using the word free, because we have not been getting free service. As other people have pointed out, we have been paying our real estate taxes, and it has come from the real estate taxes. My personal opinion is that the city does not manage money very well. So that was my first thing that I said.
Yeah.
And again, I have no control over that, but I do feel like, the city is trying to do the right thing there. So as a member of the team, I can say that. Yes, sir.
Two items, regardless if I agree or disagree with all of this. Number one, the current vendor requires you to replace your trash bin if it's damaged. Of course, they damage them. And of course, they also will not pick up the damaged bins. You have to take them to the dump. And of course, most people don't have a vehicle that they can put those giant trash bins in to take them back to the dump because they're no longer usable, because they won't pick them up because they've been damaged. So one of the things to consider is not only how to get new trash bins, but how to dispose of the old trash bins is something to consider. And the other point I wanted to make, I happen to be, my wife passed away, so it's just me and myself in my home. And my next door neighbor is a disabled person. She can't take her trash out. So of course, I go over to her house and I pick up her trash cans for garbage. And I put them in my trash and put my trash out in the street. And I also see in my neighborhood, people that will have 3 and 4 dark bins, 3 and 4 blue bins. And as you consider your fee process, how will you consider for the disabled person who can't even physically take their bin out to the trash and their neighbors are doing it for them? Or comparing somebody who has one person's amount of trash versus a family of 5, 6, 7, 8 people?
So the current discussion, and you know, we're nowhere near anything final, is that there will be a base rate that includes one each of the large bins. There may be some discount for smaller size bins for those who use less. And then if people need more than one of each bin, they would pay more.
Right. The unique situation though is I literally have.
right, when you're
You
covering for
cannot
her.
take
Yeah.
trash out, so therefore.
Right,
no trash
and I
can
don't know what kind of options the city offers for somebody who's disabled and can't get their trash to the street. You know, both of you could maybe have smaller bins and maybe your solution would be to take her
Your
smaller
problem
bin out,
solving
but
my little world, all I'm asking is that the committee or the organization is evaluating this. Evaluate how are you gonna handle disabled people who can't take their trash out.
yeah, and I don't know if there's a procedure in place, I have to be
Sure
fair.
there is.
So, but when you go online and complete the survey, there's options for you to add suggestions, and those are both very valid suggestions, I'd like to see them, you know.
I think we have time for one more question, because we're going to get.
Yes, sir.
I believe my neighbor across the street was disabled, and I would see the guys with the garbage truck stop at her house, get out of the truck, go pick up her bin, and put the truck.
We've done that in my case too. It's actually not the drivers have actually gotten out of the truck and helped with somebody. I mean,
It's good, you know, I've heard really good things about the drivers and their service in the community, thank you.
Joe, before you stop here, make just a quick comment.
Sure.
Forums that you had about, around the city, that people could come and give their opinions, I just wanted to say that that was very well done. For those of you that, because I know you know nothing positive.
Well, you know, I understand we're all living in these times, right? You know,
For those of you that did not have a chance to attend those, instead of just having the porch mob, Frankenstein crowd yelling at some court speaker, which I thought they might expect in some of the rooms, they actually had booths all around in this room. And when you came in, you took a passport and it had a number on it, and as you visited each booth, there was a different representative from environmental services talking about the process, the pig farmer thing, different history, and where we're going with the dump. And you could visit every station and learn things, and you could give your opinion and have it registered on the process. It was very well done. And as you went around, people got little stamps. And when you finished, they had little presents and prizes if you finished. It was a very good idea to whoever came up with it.
thank you, I appreciate that,
Thank you, Paul, for sure.
thanks.
Okay, next up, Chris Ward, Assembly Member of the 78th District.
Joe, good evening. Great to be with you. I heard the librarian's announcement too, so I will try to be brief, maybe give you a little bit of an overview. And I'm really excited to be here in the Serra Mesa community. My name is Chris Ward. I'm the state assembly member for kind of central San Diego. For some context, these are big districts. Our assembly district goes all the way from Balboa Park up to Miramar and Mira Mesa community, out to Tierra Santa, and even North El Cajon, including San Diego State. So really in the central part of the county here. And we operate on a calendar that takes me in Sacramento most days from January until September 1st. So I'm excited to be back in San Diego for my fall recess period. Gives me a chance to be out here for a lot of our community meetings, out some of our weekend community events. Be able to meet with constituents and advocacy groups locally about what we've done and what people would like to see happen at the state capitol next year. But I wanted to give you an update on some of the things that I really prioritized this year that are now potentially on the governor's desk. He has 7 days left before a deadline to sign his bills. And I mentioned the word deadline. We've got deadlines from January all the way until August to try to be able to get ideas, bills through committee processes, through the assembly, through the state senate, and ultimately to the governor where he decides to sign or veto. So I worked on a number of bills. 11 of them made it to his desk, some did not. I'll mention those two briefly. 8 of those he has yet to sign. But one of them is actually just hot off the press. He was able to sign today, and this has to do with school safety drills, and particularly when active shooter drills are something that we are working on. We have state code that really governs how we conduct fire drills, how we conduct earthquake drills, but as a parent of somebody who's in elementary school, I came to learn that we don't actually have this for active shooter drills, and we all know some reasons why it's important that we have these drills, but sometimes some principals have gone a little too far, in my opinion, and thought about having actors, paramilitary people come onto campus, firing fake ammunition, using guns, no notification, scaring everybody, having actors lie in fake pools of blood. Yeah, there's been isolated, but incidences that occurred, and it's dramatic. We don't turn up the temperature and fill a hallway full of flames when there's a fire drill, right? There's some order, there's some business, and you're working through to make sure that the environment is safe and that you can get students into a safe place, and you can do so in a way without inducing trauma. You can probably also do so in a way by letting the community know, hey, sometime this week, we're gonna have a drill. It's not the real thing, so you're not texting mom, worried that like something actually might be going down. So really grateful, he just signed that bill into law today that really is just trying to put those common sense guardrails on how we do that so we can keep our schools safe, but not induce trauma in the process. We also worked to be able to support doxing victims. If you are familiar with the term doxing, it's actually already a crime, and you can, if you're found guilty, serve some jail time from it. But if you are spreading somebody's information, their personal identifying information, causing harm on them, that is a crime, but there's no civil recourse. So if you're a victim of that crime, you can actually, you've endured harms and you've endured trauma, you cannot seek for any restitution for the harms that you've endured. So AB 1979 is on his desk that will allow a victim of that the ability to be able to sue civilly, to be able to recover some damages so that you can get your life back on track. I have a lot of committee appointments. There's 33 standing committees because the state touches a lot of stuff, and I serve on 6 of those. But I was appointed by the speaker to be chair of the housing committee, which is no small task, but one of the biggest issues that we have to work on here in the state of California. And I think some of you might know, I previously served on city council, so I had a little bit of an understanding on land use and housing issues here that they pertain to our community. I particularly worked on some bills that were going to be able to support more affordable housing development and understanding all of the financing that goes into that, extending some existing welfare exemption tax breaks, I guess, for the pre-construction period to make things pencil out a little bit better, working to make sure that areas like San Diego State, CSU campuses can be able to access existing state programs they currently can't, so they can build more student housing on the campus and not spell out maybe onto the neighborhoods as they continue to be able to think about some of their growth patterns. We also had a bill signed into law that we're going to be able to help a specialized subset of housing called residential care facilities for the elderly, or CFEs. That is really senior housing with sometimes specialized care attached as well. Be able to access some of the very same state programs that are available for market rate housing, so that on a given property where you're developing the senior housing, you can potentially do more units as well and be able to serve more of our senior neighbors. We can talk about a number of other bills, but I want to mention a lot of this sounds all great in policy, but you got to back it up with a little bit of support in our state budget. And we had a very difficult year this year. Revenues were down. There was a lot of structural imbalance. So we were faced with a pretty dire situation, and I was particularly incensed that the governor, when he proposed the draft in January, went right after affordable housing dollars, effectively zeroing out something that we know we need support and subsidy for, to be able to provide more workforce and low-income housing to be able to address some of the housing crisis in our community. We were able to recapture some of that with some trade-off and some negotiation, at the same time being able to support a lot of the structural imbalance that we had endured, so that potentially next year, if the economy stays constant, we won't be suffering. We're not going to see a lot of growth and a lot of new programs or new things, but we aren't going to endure the threats that we have to a lot of our social safety net programs and a lot of the structural issues that the state habitually funds year over year to support local communities. So that was difficult. We restored a lot of the housing dollars, you know, I think a lot of our state budget, again, we touched so many areas of support and policy, but education down to our schools and our community colleges receives the lion's share of it, and the next from that is healthcare, transportation, public safety, and the pie kind of shrinks from there. Not all bills I mentioned made it. Some of them got tripped up in an appropriations process, or maybe over in the Senate, where they're a little more critical of assembly members. So one area that I try to get into is kind of what I see as growing incidents on corporate-owned housing. A few of us were sort of tackling this issue. It can be thorny and tricky and political. And one of the areas that I was trying to do was to be able to set a policy that was preventing what we call real estate investment trusts. Essentially, by definition under the SEC, is an entity that owns more than 1,000 properties, from doing bulk transactions, because this is something that is growing. Certainly a little bit here in California, more so in the Sun Belt states, where these, what I'm gonna call them REITs, right, the real estate investment trusts, will come in and purchase 100 homes or more in a bulk sale transaction, right? So instead of 100 Californians competing for those 100 homes, one entity will come in and just buy from a developer and say, we're gonna take all of these in one bulk transaction and flip them into rentals. And that is lost homeownership opportunity, and it really frustrates me because while we still have the housing crunch that we have, and I want to get more families into homeownership opportunities, this is a natural advantage that cash only offers, Wall Street entities can be able to take advantage of that the average Californian cannot. And that's one thing that unfortunately the Senate did not have enough votes to be able to get that for. I'm going to continue working on something to that end. Related to that, we have the mortgage interest deduction. If you're a homeowner, you're probably familiar with that. It allows you to be able to deduct the mortgage interest on your federal and state taxes. But it doesn't apply to just your primary home. It also applies to every other single home that's out there as well. So if you have a vacation home or you have second homes, you can take the deduction on that too. And this is a conversation, this is a trade-off, because by California taxpayers that own multiple homes, and some of those, yes, are vacation homes, they're essentially taking off of the rolls about $200 million a year that I consider a state subsidy. It's a deduction over here, but what I want to see is about $200 million of support for affordable housing development or for the services that our community needs. And it's a conscientious trade-off, right? Your state tax policy can benefit that, or it can benefit this. And so I tried to be able to sort of have that conversation. It didn't even make it out of its first committee because these kinds of tax-related conversations require a 2/3 vote, a necessary high threshold. I'm trying to equalize the playing field here to be able to meet some of our shared goals and be able to support more Californians in need. The last thing that I tried to do was to be able to update our building standards code, which is has a commission that sort of does all that technical detail on how you actually, how developers can follow the code and how they can follow it. With an eye towards cost reduction, one of the biggest drivers of what we're seeing in more expensive housing is that it costs too much to actually build. And it might surprise you that we don't actually have that as a requirement. The Building Standards Commission looks at safety, that's important. They look at maybe other mandates that are important if there's environmental or other benefits that you want to be able to see as a part of the development code, but they're not thinking about it through a fiscal lens. How do we actually look at some of these mandates and try to reduce the cost of development? And we do believe with some other industry experts that if we actually had that chart, we could reduce costs by as much as 20% in just the requirements to be able to build a new house, and that would be transformational. Unfortunately, with the state budget situation, those additional costs and what it would cost the state to be able to provide that analysis kind of tripped up in the appropriations committee. I'm going to reintroduce that because I think penny for pound, it's a much better deal. Normally we're done on August 31st, but this is a very exceptional year. The governor wanted to be able to work on a policy that's going to be able to work on gasoline supply. Obviously, it affects a lot of our families and their budgets as we're seeing gas prices as high as they are, and particularly the gas price spikes that come up from time to time, and trying to dig in over the last couple of years what's going on with those spike phenomena and how do we get a better handle of it. One piece of evidence, one theory is that we have a shortage of some of our refineries here in California. That shortage reduces supply. That's inducing a really quick escalation of pricing, and you all get frustrated with that, and I agree. And so we're trying, the governor has a proposal that he wants to be able to make refineries have a requirement of a minimum 14-day supply on hand at all times, so that if there's an unintended shutdown that needs to happen while they're doing the process, that we won't lose supply, that won't affect the market. It's a theory. He tried to introduce something at the very last minute, and this is why we have a legislative process. This is why we have committees to be able to vet and review policy. Literally last week, he said, here, legislature, here's a bill, and I'd like you to pass it. We said, we need to study this one just a little bit more, because the last thing I want to do is vote for something that will have horrible unintended consequences and maybe do something that is actually not going to play out in real life in a way that you would want to see happen. So we do have a return next Tuesday, October 1st. We've got some committee work happening this week as well, and be able to study that proposal to decide if it's good or if it's going to have unintended consequences. That aside, the rest of the legislative year is done in the district, out here meeting with our constituent groups and going to our community events. We've got a number of events that have been happening as well. We just did a big effort for educating a lot of our constituents about how to go green, whether for rooftop solar, electric vehicle adoption, or other things. There's a ton of new state incentives and programs that are even reaching down to be able to support middle and lower income Californians have access for some of those incentives and some of those grants as well. We have a really good info webinar that's housed on my website, but we also were able to parlay that into a TV day with a lot of other community co-sponsors out at Grossmont College. That brought more than 500 constituents there for no obligation, kind of see the models that are out there right now and realize that, you know, maybe a decade ago where something was seeming out of reach and maybe prohibitive for your family budget, things are getting a little bit more in reach. And even with some of the attention that we have with the Public Utilities Commission over solar rebates, we want to try to make sure that we're continuing on our course to be able to get you energy independent and be able to consider solar options as well. Another thing that I had this year that I really enjoyed was the legislative survey. I have analyzed a ton of bills right now, and a lot of these have deep impact. But we were able to get out, if you follow my newsletter, please sign up if you're not getting it. We try to make sure that most are, or some of my social media channels. We had more than 300 people, which is better than the 200 or so that I had in the springtime. Really weigh in on a lot of really thorny and tricky bills and subject areas that were coming at me for a vote, because I wanted to get a pulse of the district and kind of see how would you vote if you had this bill in front of you and here's a little bit of analysis and it's a yes vote or no vote, what would you do in my job? And that feedback really helped to inform me the pulse of the district on some of these more trickier issues. And as I was sort of weighing in all the considerations, some of the answers are not necessarily black and white. There's a lot of nuance in these policies, but it's a good little fun exercise that if you want to grab a cup of coffee sometime, join my email list and be on the lookout for that next session when those decision points come up for us. So I'll close, maybe to answer a few questions that in the time that we have left, and just thank you for the opportunity to be here with the Community Council here tonight. It's a pleasure to be in service. We are working around the district right now to sort of see what are the themes, what are the ideas we have for legislative action for next year, because when I go back in January, I can introduce more bills and I can get back to work for you. So thank you for having me. Love to take any time. We have a question. I know we got a couple of other representatives as well from other offices, so we'll try to squeeze all that in.
I do got, it's not a question, but to make everyone realize what affordable housing is.
Yep.
It's subsidized by the state is what affordable housing is.
Can be, it can also be an offset if you have development, right, that has a set aside requirement that's fully paid for.
Percentage of housing
A lot
provided
of
for
it.
that affordable housing, but it's not affordable, it's just subsidized by the state. I mean,
Or the federal government, most of it is in federal funds, which we need more of, but yes, publicly subsidized, yes.
The same comment is, if they key it now, affordable housing, it is government housing. So back when I was younger, it was the projects, it's government housing.
yeah,
In order for you to qualify in the city of San Diego and the county, you have to make 80% of the, or below, of the
Yeah.
average median income.
Correct.
Now, that's very little money for one person. To give you context, it's about 84,000. Now, where it gets a little tricky is that the average house in San Diego is closer to 900,000.
you're right.
So the people that are using these programs, it's usually based on household size
Yep.
and income. But it's not affordable.
No, it's not
government
affordable to
housing,
anybody.
And it's capping people's income potential. Once people go into the system,
And for
So you're close, if I can add on a couple of things here, right, yeah, because usually that's for a family of four, it's a little less if you're a single, depending what.
31,000.
Yeah.
Or the 80%, for the 80% threshold. Some of it says either 60% or 50%, right? And some of it is, depending on the programs that are in development. And some of it is 100% of the building is affordable. Sometimes it's a set aside, maybe just 10% of a new development is affordable. Mostly though, it's usually run by an operator, not a government doesn't, the housing commission doesn't have some of the properties, but like, you know, you could be one of these companies out there that manages. Right, exactly. So they probably have a property manager on site. one thing the housing commission does do and everything is just make sure that income eligibility is still there. So somebody that needs that, we have a 10-year waiting list for some of the affordable housing units, right? You sign up for one today. And somebody still qualifies for that, but you're absolutely right. Some people can become trapped there. Why? Because for them to get into a market rate unit, right? The rent from jump from here to here is just too much for them to be able to absorb. So it's tricky.
It's very tricky.
Yeah.
I grew up in a very poor area of San Diego County,
Yeah.
where a lot of my neighbors were part of Section 8 housing.
Yeah,
I can tell you that a lot of people that fall trap into that
yeah,
do not get out.
I know.
I think that in San Diego, you know, we need to stop calling it affordable housing. It's government housing.
It's deceiving,
It's
very deceiving by using that term.
So there's a couple of interchangeable things, because yes, there's government housing, there is housing that has affordability requirements on it, and someone's managing that. But generally, I think what we're talking to most community members is like, how do you get something affordable to me? Right? And that's not subsidized housing, that's just like, how do I get rents or home costs like in reach where I can be able to afford it? And so that's a whole other set of things that we're trying to work into. Yeah, it is.
Well, when you purchase a home versus an apartment, you know, what you've done is you've upzoned the single family neighborhoods in San Diego, so that the potential on many of those lots is now 10 units. So developers are coming in and they are buying up blocks, and that loses the ability for families to start to purchase a starter home. And that's what's happening and especially in our community here.
Yeah.
We just have one street where the whole street now is been turned into basically apartments, but those were single family starters.
Library will close in at 5 years.
Oh, okay. Wow. I hear what you got over there. I don't want to, I know there's many reports from some of the other representatives, but Michael Bravo is my field representative for this and many other neighborhoods, because we cover a lot of geography. So again, we're around. If you have questions or thoughts, contact our office. I'd love to be able to get that input ahead of time, and then when we go back to work, try to thematically work on some of these issues to you. But I appreciate the discussion here tonight. Thank you all very much. Thank you. So if you don't have my information, it's definitely right there for you. Again, my name is Michael Bravo. Happy to be representing the community.
Okay, so we're kind of out of time. You guys have any updates you want to give? Okay. So next meeting as of right now is January 28th. Don't forget. David?
I'm here.
Yes. When's your event?
Oh, hello, everybody, I'm David Stan. I sent out a little magazine. You may get it in your mail. If you don't, let me know and I can send it out. October 15th, I'm hosting an event called Estate Planning in this Room, October 15th. It's called Estate Planning and Finances After Loss, and it came from the need that I see in our community, which is when somebody loses their partner or life partner that they own property with or that they share accounts with, they're not really trained by our school system or our professionals, or there's not really a manual on how to handle finances after loss. So there's no angle with this program or this class or this seminar. It's literally just, I hired an estate planning attorney that I work with my family and my clients, and she's amazing. And then I brought in an appraiser that's a friend of mine that also appraises property when somebody passes away, and then there's a step up in basis and all these things. And I'm bringing on a financial planner that also deals with these things as well, to answer questions so that you can either handle your finances after losing somebody or prepare yourself for them. So if you have friends in this community or friends in life that could benefit from learning these things, I implore you to come October 15th at 5:30 in this room, so that we can talk about it. And it's something I'll be doing every 3 months or so, because I'm noticing that it's happening every day, and it's a big gap in our community, for at least from a knowledge-based perspective. So please share with your friends, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all. So thank you again.
Thanks, David. So next time we meet, we're gonna go through elections. Everybody, please get out there and vote. Please take the time to check out. They didn't want to talk.
Oh, we don't have time for it.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, if the librarians that throw us out, you feel free to come and speak. Yeah, I think.
Is that a problem? I don't know. I just want to have a chance to things and make people. I mean, we made them sit before. Yeah, all right, yeah, you can take that.
Okay, but in the meantime, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, you can reach us at our website, we can call us on the phone, I check the emails, and we can get in contact with all the representatives as we've been doing, so. Please bring a friend next time, to the meeting on the 28th of January. Again, get out there and vote and make sure you really check everything out and make good decisions and be informed. I appreciate it, thanks so much for coming out.